Okay, well, we're live on YouTube, and so we are ready to go. Thank you, everyone, for coming after school. I know that all of you are busy, but I want to thank you. This is the largest parent turnout I've had so far in the years that I've been doing this, so thank you. And if you're joining us online on YouTube live stream, you're welcome as well. Today, I do want to present on just an overview of high school courses. I want to talk about graduation requirements and make sure that you understand those. Those are on the sheet that I've already passed out to you. We'll go into that in more detail in a few moments. We'll talk about course selection. We'll talk about AP courses, online courses, our test site status, meaning like college admission types tests like SAT, PSAT, things like that. And I just want to briefly introduce and talk about a program called SIALFO College Planning. I'll have another session in quarter 4 that has everything about SIALFO. But SIALFO is simply the online platform that we use to organize all of the college application stuff. And so I just want to introduce it today. A more detailed session will be for that in quarter 4. Okay. The sheet that you have before you has our Morrison graduation requirements. It's a little bit different format than this, but students will be enrolled in a Bible class every semester that they are attending Morrison. They will also have an English class for all 4 years of high school. Our social studies, there are 3 credits required for graduation, and those are built into the schedule for grades 10, 11, and 12. World history in grade 10, U.S. history. It says their substitute. What that means is students may choose AP, U.S. history, in that year, same year, grade 11. And then grade 12 is government for social studies, and those are built into the students' schedules. Moving down here, we have 2 credits of physical education or related credits is a requirement. 9th graders will simply automatically be enrolled in a PE class for semester 1 and semester 2 of their freshman year. Grade 10, the health course for grade 10 is required, and then we do offer sports management in the other semester, and I do recommend students take that, but it's not required. But if they take it, they are finished with that graduation requirement in 2 years. And so after that, in grades 11 and 12, they have more flexibility in their schedule. Okay. Now, only 2 credits of science is required for graduation. But again, I want to point out on the sheet that I have given you, there are 2 columns. There's the Morrison graduation requirement, but then there are also recommendations for college admissions. And that also varies depending on what major they are going into. So I tell students, I simply put it this way: the graduation requirement is what you've got to do to get out the door of the high school. But to get into the doors of college, you may need more. You may need more than that, especially if they're going into any of the STEAM or science majors. They will obviously need more science and math. Okay, but it's just 2 science as a graduation requirement. 3 math credits are required, and we start with Algebra 1. Now, some students, because of our dual track that starts in 8th grade, some 8th graders are already taking Algebra 1. So that credit for 8th grade Algebra 1, since it is a high school level course, it will be on the student's high school transcript. No other middle school class will be on that transcript for high school, but the Algebra 1, a high school level math, will be on their grade 9 transcript with credit and grade. Okay, so we go ahead and give them that. Okay, but again, that's just a start. So students will need to understand, what math level do they need to get to before they graduate high school? Right now, there are a lot of articles that are going around the internet talking about how, since a lot of schools have gone SAT optional, they say students don't have to give the SAT score to apply to their college or university. Some of those schools, and I want to emphasize, very highly selective and highly competitive schools. Some of them are getting to the point where they would require AP Calculus, the highest math, to apply to those schools. And so, again, and I want to repeat, that's not all universities. That is highly, highly competitive, highly selective schools, okay? Most general schools, state schools, even good schools, do not require AP Calculus, but there are some that do, if they're going to remain SAT optional. Because if they're not looking at the SAT scores to evaluate math and English ability, they're looking more towards the student's transcript, right? Okay. So that's something that I encourage all parents and all students, once we get into high school, begin researching college admissions requirements, so that as we're planning high school courses, we know that that student is on track to meet those admission requirements. It's not going to guarantee admission, but we want to make sure they have everything they need to apply. Okay. All right. Another required credits for graduation are what we call visual and performing arts credits. That's your music and your art classes. The other remaining credits are simply just electives. Now, elective is anything above and beyond what we've listed there. For example, 2 sciences are required. So if they take 3 sciences, that third science is a science elective. Hi, come on in, don't worry. Thanks for coming. Okay. Yeah. So the total credits that a student would need to graduate is 24, and that is very simple for them to achieve. They have to have 6 credits each year to be a full-time student, and the maximum number of credits they can take is 8 in a year. So it is very easy with our program to achieve the graduation requirements. Okay. Right. Any questions here before we move on?
Do they have a minimum that they need to do per year? Is it 6?
Yeah, 6 credits is the minimum for the year. They have to have 6 credits for the year to be enrolled as a full-time student. All right. Here, I just wanted to give an example. We're still fine-tuning the schedule and adjusting some things based on like new staff, things like that. But this is just an example of schedule. This happens to be 9th grade. Again, I want to emphasize this is draft. So please don't, if you're taking pictures of it, yeah, please understand this is subject to change. But you can see how our schedule does work in a combination of what we call blocks, 2 periods, and or single periods alone, but equivalent to 5 periods a week at some point in the week. And so we give a copy of this to every student when they come. We tell them, put it in your locker, and so the students understand where they are, because every day can be a little bit different for that student. Or some days may be similar, like Monday and Wednesday is similar, Tuesday and Friday. Yeah, but because of our late start on Thursday, that we have to adjust things on that day. But this is just an example. So most middle schoolers, they do have some classes that are in block, but we actually don't, we try not to give them too many that are in block, because a block is a long period of time. Once they get into high school, yes, they are going to have more classes. Most of the classes are in a block period. format. Okay. Towards the end of the day, there are 4 periods, Monday through Thursday, that are for music and what we call flex. Now, middle school students, they do have flex time built into their schedule, so most of you understand what that means. If not, flex just means flexible. They can go and see a teacher if they want to, if they have questions. Or a teacher may say, no, you need to come to me during this flex period so that we can work on some things. Or they can have just study time, or they have, in high school, they have clubs and opportunities to do things during that time as well. So there will be some schedule changes from middle school to high school, but it's not a drastic change. There's some adjustment, but not all. Okay. So we'll be finalizing this and publishing it for the students soon. Okay. I do realize there are a lot of 8th grade parents in the room, and so just want to let you know, 8th graders have regular guidance time, counseling time with the middle school counselor, but coming up in quarter 4, I will actually take over some of those classes, and I'll be teaching them a lot of what we're talking about now. I'm really going to spend a lot of time emphasizing and making sure they understand the high school credit system and also the high school grading system and GPA, like the grade point averages and how that works and how that's going to be different from high school. Since we've implemented the standards-based education program and scoring in elementary and it's worked its way up into middle school, we have a lot of kids now who are used to just that standards-based and rubric scoring. Now in high school, we still do rubric scoring, but we go back to the more traditional letter grade and GPA calculation as well. So I'll make sure that the current 8th graders understand the new grading system, and then I will actually walk them through the actual course registration. It will be a paper that I'll explain to them. They can bring that home, and you as parent and student and child, you can discuss that, and then you request those classes, and I'll work that out for them. A lot of the classes, 9th grade, that schedule is pretty much set. It's just the elective classes for 9th grade. So do they want to take music? What kind of music do they want? Or do they want to take art? What language do they want? That kind of thing. And if they do want an online course, then that's also something that they can look into. And I'll have all that information for the 7-Star Online Academy is what we use as our primary online provider. Yeah. As we get up into the higher level courses, AP courses in grades 10, 11, 12, the higher AP courses, sometimes 7-Star doesn't have those, and so we have another provider. We say if 7-Star doesn't have it, we go to Ethos online provider at this point. And so again, if a student wants an online course, I'll have that information to you all, and they may possibly use that in their schedules. Okay. Yeah. Now, for all the current 9 to 11th graders, I actually surveyed them quite a while ago. I'm sorry, question?
Did you say that if the student wants an online course, you guys can make it happen?
Well, they can request it.
I see.
Yeah, if it's a 7-Star course, if it fits into our online policies, and it fits into their schedule. So with those limits, like six to eight credits, they can't take like 8 credits here and then another online course, or So but if they're interested in an online course, then they can request it, and we can talk about including that in their schedule. But all the online courses are subject to approval by me and the principal. Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Are any of those courses also dual credit courses?
They are. Some of them are dual credit. We have had some students take dual credit courses. If students are considering dual credit, I would recommend that that happens and that waits until at least grades 11 or 12. And the dual credit system that we use is through Grand Canyon University. And I would want to make sure that I sit down with parents and students so that they really understand. There's the online classes, and then there's AP online classes, and then there's dual credit with Grand Canyon University. I'll try to summarize it this way. Think about all the work that's in a semester, and the Grand Canyon University is going to cram that into about 8 to 10 weeks. And that's a dual credit course with Grand Canyon University. They're not like AP. They say AP courses are approaching or reaching college level. Those dual credit courses are college level, and they get high school credit for it as well. So they are short and intense. But some of the students who have taken them, they really have enjoyed them. And they were busy for a season, then they were finished. And so they really liked it. And other students were like, that was so hard. You know, but then they have high school credit and college credit. And one student, because of his experience, is actually applying to the Grand Canyon University. So, yeah. Yes, I was here. For grades 9 to 11, current 9 to 11, I've already surveyed them back in November. I sent them just an interest survey, and I asked them, what courses are you interested in for next year? And so for most students 9 through 11, I have a pretty good idea of what they want to take already. We'll finalize that, but I've been meeting with them periodically since November, and here in the beginning of semester 2. I've just had more individual meetings with them. I enjoy that more than just, here's your paper and give me your paper back. And it really helps me to have conversations with the students and understand what they want, what their goals are, what their dreams are. And so I'm trying to do that more and more. And this year I would like to meet with them, grades 9 to 11, individually, and have their schedules hopefully finalized by mid-April. Mid-April. That's earlier than in years past, but that really does help us finalize schedules and teacher assignments and rosters and things like that. And kids aren't scrambling at the last minute to decide, oh, what do I want to do? I hope to have that done earlier this year. Okay? And again, also I encourage high school students and parents again to begin researching college admissions requirements as we are looking to plan high school courses to make sure they have what they need. AP courses. Listed here are the AP courses that we offer here on our campus. AP Mandarin, U.S. History, Chemistry, Biology, Statistics, Calculus, English, and 2D Art Studio. And those are the ones that we offer here on campus. And by policy, there are limits. Now, ninth grade, the only AP course that they are allowed to have is if their Mandarin teachers say their next Mandarin level is AP Mandarin. And then that's the only one that ninth graders can have. Moving up in the grade levels, 10th graders can have 1 AP, 11th graders 2, and seniors, they can have 3 AP courses. Okay? Now, the only exception to this is the Mandarin. Say, for example, a 10th grader, they're only supposed to have 1 AP. They can choose, like, an AP Math, for example. And then if the Mandarin teacher says their Mandarin is AP Mandarin, then we'll give them that as well. But the Mandarin level is the only exception to that limit. So that limit is their core classes, math, science, social studies, English, things like that. They can request those APs. They can only go over that limit if it's time for them to have AP Mandarin. Okay?
So that means ninth grade cannot take any AP class.
That's correct.
Even we pay by ourselves.
That, well, but again, yeah, it's not permitted. That would not be approved. Now, I'll give this caveat. There are students who independently study AP courses. There are students who do courses during the summers, but those won't be on the Morrison transcript. For enrichment, or if they're doing it for fun, that's fine. So I'm not saying you can't do it. What I'm saying is, by policy, this is what I'm allowed for a student to do at Morrison, and what will be approved to go on their transcript. So if a course is taken somewhere else, and they achieve a transcript or a grade from that institution, that's fine. But it's just, I cannot include that on the Morrison transcript. Okay? Yes, sir.
I might have asked this before, but why is it 12th grade AP heavy when you're already applying to schools? I recall I was doing a lot more APs in 11th and 10th grade,
Okay.
just to get ready for the college application. But
with our schedule, 9 and 10 is very heavy in the graduation requirements. And usually in grades 9 and 10, those extra, like PE, visual performing arts, foreign language, things like that, many of those graduation requirements are done. And so as they're moving into grades 11 and 12, being AP heavy is okay, because they actually don't have to fill up their entire schedule or max out their credits at 8 credits because they have to meet graduation requirements. They can actually be fine with taking fewer courses total and being AP heavy. You see what I mean? Yeah, because they may be taking 3 APs, but maybe only have 6 credits total, or 6.5 if they add a music or an art.
are the top high schools in the U.S., are they swayed this way as well with 12th grade AP heavy?
There's a mix and a variety wherever you go. There are probably going to be schools that, like you say, they may be allowing, they may have no limits on APs, or they may allow more APs in lower grades, and there are going to be schools that are like this. There's quite a variety. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, I mean, that is a good question, and just philosophically, we try to have the younger students with more basic courses taking care of their graduation requirements. So their schedule is quite full, but those classes are not as academically heavy. And then as they progress into the higher grades and higher courses with more academic demand, then they don't have to fill up their schedule just to meet graduation requirement. They can focus on performing well in fewer number of classes, but more advanced AP courses.
My concern is it too late by 12th grade when you apply for school, then they see your AP grades, then that's my only concern.
Okay. I have yet to have a university contact a student or myself and say, yeah, you just don't have enough APs, or we can't accept you because you don't have your senior AP scores yet. See what I mean? And we have students. that they're going through this, and they're getting into good schools. We've had 2 students this year who didn't actually max out their senior APs, and they got into NYU in New York and NYU Abu Dhabi in their ED, early decision route. We have kids that are getting into good schools based on this program. Yes, sir.
Just with the limits, you're saying basically you can only do 7 out of the 8. Is that, and then only if you pick something in 5th grade if you're following the.
Well, if a student's not taking the AP Mandarin, then really they're about 6 APs. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, all right. We'll have time for questions later as well, but I'll want to move on. Yeah, I want to talk about, our policy also requires if a student takes an AP course, they must take the AP exam. We've had students say, oh, I want to take the course, but I don't want to take the exam. No, it's Morrison policy that they need to take the AP exam at the end of the year. Now, there is a clause in there where if they say, well, I really do not want to take the AP exam, then what I actually have to do is I have to get parent and superintendent approval, but I give them the course, I give them the credit, but the AP is not actually put on the transcript. So, but then they're doing the AP level course. So I would hate to take away the AP when they've actually put in the work for it. They've done the course at the AP level, and then I would encourage them to prepare and take the exam. Take the exam as well. Okay. And there is also an option for what we call exam only. AP exam only. So what that means is the student is not taking that AP course with us. Maybe they're taking it like somewhere else. They're doing it independently, like we just talked about. That's an option. That's not going to be on the transcript. But any student who is one of our students who wants to take an AP exam, we want to give them that opportunity here. So when we'll send out emails from the MATCC Counseling Center and say, it's time to register for AP exams. Now, the students that are already in a class, that's automatic, right? I will be ordering their AP exam. But parents and students can also contact us and say, my child would like to take this AP exam only, and pay that fee, and we will register them for that exam here. Okay? Now, I do want to say that's an option, but I also do want to caution. There is a word of caution. If I don't have time to put all of the data up here, but myself and another teacher on the MAC campus has been tracking this kind of data. What are the AP score outcomes for students who have our AP courses here? What are the score outcomes for students who take AP online courses and then take the AP exam? And then what are the AP score outcomes for students who just do it independently study? No course, they just independently study on their own and they take the exam only. And if you want to come to my office and schedule an appointment, I will show you that data. There's average to high if they have the course here. There's average to some high, but more like scores of like 2, 3, 4 if they do it online. But most students who say they're just doing an independent study, there's no online course to assist them, they just buy a book and study themselves, those students are averaging 2, some 1s, 2s, and some 3s, but not very many. And so, again, the AP exam range is 1 to 5. And so most of the students who are independently studying are averaging a 2. And so, and if you don't know, there are some colleges who say if the student scores well on their AP exam, they may possibly be able to receive that credit in college. But that is only if the student is scoring a 4 or 5, usually. Yeah. So it's kind of sad for me to see students who say, I'm going to independently study. That means they're working above and beyond what they're doing at Morrison. And many of them are averaging like 2s, 3s. So that the experience is good. They may get a good grade in the course, or a decent grade in the course, and that contributes well to their GPA. And the colleges see on their transcript that they're attempting AP courses. But if a student is really working for that AP exam for college credit, they really need to perform well. And so, yeah, there have been some students that do well, but we're not seeing a lot of students who independently study that are achieving scores that would get them college credit for those, okay? So I really want to be honest, and I want to put that out there, and you know, because we're talking about students who, in their MAT courses, in their online courses, they're highly academic and they're highly motivated, and still that was the outcome for many of those students who studied independently. And so I just want to make sure that people are aware of that, making wise decisions about what their children are going to commit to study and put their time and energy into. Okay. Yeah. So online courses, again, I mentioned before, but 7-Star is our primary partner for online courses. So what that means is we sign students up with 7-Star courses first if they have them. And so 7-Star actually gives us it's a large discount for those courses. Students who want to take courses that are not 7-Star, if they're on Ethos, then we kind of have to talk about the pricing. Because if it's a big difference, then the family may need to pay part of that and the school pays for part of that. Because our policy is that the tuition you pay covers one online course. Okay? Your tuition pays for one online course, there's no additional fee. But if there's a large discrepancy in that price, we may have to talk about parents paying. If a student wants to take more than one course online, then the family would be responsible for that second course. Okay? We have had some students that have requested to take 3 onlines, and I would not recommend that. Two is what I recommend as a maximum. Again, I see the students they're highly academic and they're highly motivated, but when it's online and they do not have a teacher live here with them, supporting them, it is just more challenging to take in that content and perform well. And so there are students who they're taking 2 or 3 online courses. There are a lot of challenges. There are a lot of challenges. Also, another thing I want to point out: 7-Star courses, because we have a partnership, I set the schedule for that course so that I know that it matches Morrison's calendar. With the Ethos courses, the other provider, those online courses have to match their US schedule. Okay? And another thing to point out with the Ethos courses, the other courses, there are a lot more face-to-face meetings that they have to have with the online teacher. 7-Star, they have maybe every 4 to 6 weeks. They will have a time where the student has to meet with the teacher. It could be just a brief conversation. It could actually be an oral assessment with that teacher. So 7-Star is only like 4 to 6 weeks. With Ethos, it's weekly. It's weekly. And with the time difference from here to the US, that means students that are doing those online meetings face-to-face are typically early in the morning or later in the evening. It will be outside of school time. Okay? So again, I just want parents to understand that and students to understand that. I explain that to them as they're choosing online courses. Okay? Also, if they take an online course, that means they're not taking an MAT course. But there's still a time in our schedule for that credit, right? And so any student who doesn't have a class, they're in study hall. So study hall and online, they're in the study lounge is what we call it. And it's next to our office. And the chaplain's office is there. And so, but what I find is I find some students, they do whatever they want in study hall. And they do online at home. And I do emphasize to them, like, we give you 5 periods a week in your schedule to work on online here at school, so that it shouldn't be a big burden at home in the evenings. But I do find that some students, they flip that. They're here at Morrison, and like, I have to work on my Morrison classes. And sometimes their online course is an afterthought. And I do want to emphasize to parents and students, it's a part of their schedule and should be considered the same as any of their MAT courses. And we give them time at school to work on it. So we really don't want students to fall behind in their online course. Also, a myth or a misunderstanding that I think a lot of students have with 7-Star is 7-Star has this policy where they say you have 2 weeks where assignments can be late and you don't get academically penalized. And see, some students, they read that and they say, oh, I can be late for 2 weeks. No, no. So I emphasize to them, you should not be late on your work at all. But what the policy is saying is they're going to give you 2 weeks before they take points off. If you're too late, well, then you're going to do A-level work and you're going to get a B. You know, but I've actually emailed 7-Star about this policy and asked, like, can we make that 1 week? I mean, can we adjust that? Because we do find that there are some students that they're actually working ahead. And then you have students that are they're always on time. And then you have students that we're constantly saying to them, you're still late. you're late. You know, you have 3 assignments behind. You have 5 assignments behind. And so again, I want to emphasize that before students ever take online courses with 7-Star, it's not just permission to be 2 weeks behind. It's them giving some grace. Like, you know, grace if you're sick, if there's a family situation, yeah, there's grace built into their grading policy. But it's not just permission to be 2 weeks late on online coursework. Yeah. Okay. Oh yes, and I did want to emphasize here, yeah, the online AP courses are included in that AP limit. So, for example, a senior who can have 3 APs, they can have 2 APs here, and they can have 1 online, and it's still a total of 3. Okay, so the online courses are included in that online limit, or the AP limit. Okay, all right. Any questions with that before I move on? We're almost finished. Okay. All right, I wanted to update you all on College Board testing on our site. Actually, this weekend, we will have our first digital SAT. There's no more papers, there's no more filling in those bubbles and getting the hand cramp that many of us have experienced. It's all digital now, and it really streamlines the process. It makes the scoring will come back faster. The test itself with us, on the day they take it, it's much shorter than it used to be in the past. And also, next year, the College Board has announced that PSAT testing will also be digitized. So they will be taking it on their computers here. Now, for students like middle school, for elementary and middle school, you have been accustomed to seeing MAP scores. The standardized test that middle schoolers receive is MAP, yeah, and that achievement test. For 9th grade, the school administration is now in the process of deciding whether 9th graders are going to continue MAP for 1 more year, or they will take PSAT. Yeah. So there was debate whether we were going to do PSAT 9. There are different grade level versions of this PSAT test. And so the administration is still deciding and finalizing, are we going to do 9th grade MAP? Is that data more important for us as a school? or is the PSAT data more important? There are many of them that, and teachers and administrators that feel like the MAP data that tests language arts and math and science, that information is more valuable to us and the students and parents for grade 9. Now, we will continue. Grade 10 and grade 11 will all take the PSAT. And that PSAT level is what we call the National Merit Scholar Qualifying Test. So for 10th graders, it's still a practice. For 11th grade, when they take the PSAT, that score could qualify them for recognition at the National Merit Scholar. Okay? All students that are in our school that take that PSAT, they can be recognized for their scores. U.S. citizens, U.S. passport holders, students, if they score high enough, they can then go on and possibly be eligible for scholarship opportunities, things like that. But I emphasize, that's U.S. passport holders. So all students will be recognized for their score. Yeah, but U.S. passport holders that score high on that 11th grade test could actually receive scholarship opportunities for college. It's not done yet, but they are digitized in the